Greetings, Wanderers. Welcome back to Yindy's Tips and Tricks. This is the series that I'm putting together for new players and dungeon masters alike. So far, we've covered So What Is D&D/TTRPGs, along with 5 general tips for both players and dungeon masters alike to make sure that your first tabletop experience goes smoothly. So if you haven't already, make sure to check out those videos. Don't worry, aspiring dungeon masters, we'll get to you next time. So you've just been invited over to your friend's house to try out this whole D&D thing. Now I'm going to presume that you've already kind of flicked through the rulebook or at least had a look at the character creator for whichever system that you're planning on using. This video isn't about optimizing your character stats or mastering the rules. No, instead it's about how to be a great player. Support the people at your table, help everyone out, including yourself, and have as much fun as possible. I'll try not to repeat myself from previous videos where I talk more about table etiquette and avoiding main character syndrome. And of course, the golden rule, don't be a dick. You're there to have fun with your friends, not at their expense. How to roleplay your character in a role-playing game. In the last video, I got a lovely comment from Breadcroon who said, "If anything, the thing I have the most trouble with in tabletop is when the spotlight's on me. Sort of the overwhelming feeling of everyone staring at me when I'm asked what I'll do. And my mind just kind of runs through a million options and I get stuck, blanking out." First off, that's actually completely normal. A lot of new players often feel uncomfortable and self-conscious at the thought of having to act out or speak as their characters. However, here's the dirty little secret. You don't have to. There's this misconception that to truly play D&D, you need to dress up in full cosplay and do the silly voices and only ever break character in the case of a dire emergency. But that's simply not true. Look, I have an acting background. I've dabbled in stand-up and improv comedy. That's actually how I met the rest of the Halfwits, who should come as no surprise, are all performers too. Oh, and Critical Role? That wildly popular D&D show that everyone's heard of? Yeah, they're literally professional voice actors. Performing for an audience is very different than playing for fun in your home game, so take that pressure off yourself. If your character knows something that you don't, and the DM then explains it to you, you don't need to repeat all that fantasy bollocks back to the rest of the players. Instead, you could just say, I relay it to the rest of the party. And seriously, that's fine. It's also completely valid to roleplay in the third person. To narrate your character's actions. To summarise what you wanted them to say. Or even just paraphrase. Keep that level of emotional distance if that makes things easier. A lot of people find that maintaining a degree of separation just helps them ease into the game more comfortably. Now here's a tip from my sister, who got into the whole TTRPG thing completely independently of me. She used to get overwhelmed by the whole role-playing thing too. She actually made a grid with 3 core character traits that she wanted the character to have, along with a secret, a flaw, and an agenda. She then wrote example dialogue lines for each one in 3 different styles: heroic, snarky, and disgruntled. She used this to hack her brain, as she put it, and set the tone for any situation that she may find her character in. Clever, right? I also like to get my players to think about long, medium, and short-term goals. Now, many RPG systems can actually tie these into the mechanics and character progression, but even if it doesn't, these still can be incredibly useful. Goal setting for your character. Starting off, long-term goals. This is your character's main motivation, and the whole reason that they're on this quest in the first place. Perhaps they're out to avenge a loved one, or perhaps resurrect someone that they've lost. This goal should evolve and change over time. Perhaps they start off as angry and vengeful, before eventually softening and learning forgiveness. And when the character attains this goal, maybe that's the point they should be retired, or become a beloved NPC that the rest of the party can revisit going forward. Medium-term goals. This is the next big step on attaining that previous long-term goal. Think of it as the next chapter in a book or act of a film. Perhaps it's about tracking down that NPC or uncovering a mystery. It could be as simple as making it over to the next town. The point is, it should take a few sessions to complete. Short-term goals are what your character wants to do right now in this very scene. Perhaps it's as simple as making it across to the other side of the room, but there's a pack of goblins in the way. It could be that you want to buy drinks for the rest of the party, but you're out of gold. Or perhaps you need to steal a nobleman's keys while the bard's distracting them with a dazzling performance. The point is, it should give your character agency and something to do in that very moment and keep the game flowing. Focus at the table. And tips for neurodivergent players. Okay, so this one's close to my heart. As I stated previously, I'm dyslexic. And let's face it, a lot of people in the TTRPG space have their own quirks and eccentricities. In fact, many creative folks who play D&D are neurodivergent, which is just a fancy way of saying that our brains are wired slightly differently to your neurotypical standard. Just watch Halfwits, you can actually feel the ADHD radiating out from the screen. Now, how that neurodiversity shows up is different for everyone. In my case, I have difficulty sight reading and retaining names, which can get me into trouble more often than I would like. Check out the latest episode of Halfwits for that. Other folks may have difficulty staying focused over a long session, or may need something to do with their hands while playing. I'm a teacher in real life, and I always try to structure my classes much like my TTRPG tables, and make sure that I support both my learners and my players however I can. This isn't some Victorian high school, where we all need to sit ramrod stiff in complete silence and only speak when spoken to. Some of my players bring along something small and unintrusive that they can do with their hands, if it helps them focus. This could be knitting or crochet, a fidget cube, or they might need to get up every once in a while and go off and make a cuppa. I might even allow them to play a quiet idle game on their phone, as long as it doesn't pull attention away from the rest of the table. If it helps them focus and isn't distracting to others, then I say go for it. It's not rude, it's just how their brains operate. Let them do what they need to do to stay engaged and enjoy the game. Now, of course, if what they're doing is actively disruptive, like zoning out entirely, not paying attention, or playing Marvel Rivals on the second monitor, yeah, that might be considered a dick move. See previous video. It all comes down to understanding and accommodating one another. If someone needs a different play style or pacing, then talk about it. Communicate. A good group and a good DM should be able to adjust things so that everyone feels welcome and included. Number 3. It's what my character would do. Alignment and intent. Ah yes, the infamous phrase, but it's what my character would do. This could be interpreted in a few different ways. It's the most infamous one. A problematic player disrupting the game, causing issues, and making other people upset. All while using the, oh, but it's what my character would do, as an excuse to justify their shitty behaviour. Yeah, once again, don't be a dick. I refer you to main character syndrome, go check out the other video. But let's presume that we're all acting in good faith, and that we're here to deepen character roleplay and not excuse bad sportsmanship. Cool. Here's some acting techniques that I use that might help you get into your character's mindset. If I'm playing an eccentric or slightly oddball character, I'll write a statement that helps inform how I wish to portray that character. Something like, they always have a live mouse in their pocket, or are deathly allergic to bees. Important, this isn't meant to be literal. They don't actually have a live mouse in their pocket, or fear that killer bees are going to break through the window at any moment and attack them. It's all about the vibe. They just feel like the sort of character who would have a live mouse in their pocket, or flinch at every single little background noise that pops off. Okay, confession time. I was that slightly weird kid in school. Yeah, shocking, I know. But when I was about 7 or 8, Pokemon had just blown up. And I used to carry about this Meowth toy wherever I went, and I would speak to it like it was actually the Meowth from the show. Yeah, I'm a Meowth guy. What of it? You, Pikachu. So, if I imagine a character that might carry a live mouse in their pocket, that's the socially awkward, shy, slow to trust kid that I kind of picture. And when I play that character, I lean into those traits, even if the mouse itself never actually comes up. You also get a ton of creative joy imagining their unique backstory, even if it never directly affects the plot. Alignment, tools, or traps. Now, let's talk about alignment. That classic D&D tool used to define character behaviour. That's that grid that has good, neutral, evil down one axis, and lawful, neutral, chaotic along the other. Say you're a free-spirited, tree-hugging druid who loves nature and fights the system. Congratulations, you're chaotic good. Or perhaps you're a self-serving nobleman who loves to screw over others, all while remaining technically inside the rules. Boom, lawful evil. On paper, I love this idea. It gives you two axes that help define your character's personality and moral compass. But most importantly, they can, and in my opinion, should, eventually come into conflict with one another. Let's take the Paladin, for example. Rules as written, they're meant to be lawful good. Now, they take an oath to an order, but if they break that oath, they risk falling and becoming a blackguard. Which is fine, if that's the character arc that you're going for. But here's the issue. Some people treat alignment much like a straitjacket. There's even a meme in the community where lawful good actually means lawful stupid. And you get instances of players refusing to back down from a fight they clearly can't win, or move out of the boss's AoE danger puddle because I never back down from evil. Come on, that's not roleplay. That's just tunnel vision. In my opinion, alignment should be more of a vibe check, rather than a hard and fast rule. It's totally okay for your character's alignment to shift and change over the course of the campaign, as your character grows and evolves, just like real people. Let's go back to our Paladin for a second. Let's say that their oath comes into direct conflict with them doing the morally right thing. Do they break their oath and follow their conscience? Or do they double down and walk a much darker path, all in the name of order? Yep. I'm looking at you, Arthas.
Me? Foul knave.
A good character feels like someone who existed before the campaign began, and will continue to exist after the campaign is over. Unless they died, of course. Number 4. Know your role in the party and at the table. Now, this one's different from knowing your class and the mechanics of your character. Important, yes, especially at higher level, more mechanically intensive campaigns. But today, I want to talk about role in a more broader sense. I mean your niche, your role, your purpose, both in the party and at the table. Are you the tanky frontliner, standing in the way of danger and your more squishy friends, all the while quietly making sure that everyone's emotional hit points are topped up too? Or maybe you're the obsessive wizard type, who's read every single dusty tome that the party's ever come across, and has a murder board in the basement, connecting all the NPCs and plot points together, and is fully ready to foil the BBEG's big dastardly plan by summoning a hail of fireballs. For yes, it is always fireballs. Or maybe you're the bard, the morale booster, the comic relief, the flirty chaos gremlin that seduces their way out of boss fights and sings tales of the party's exploits. A good party is balanced, not just in terms of its mechanics, but also its narrative tone. That's why shows like Critical Role sing, and what I try to emulate when putting together Halfwits. And the same is true of your table. Maybe you're the veteran, the old warhorse that's been there through every edition, and is there to support and uplift the new players. Or maybe you're the host, the glue holding the group together, the one who organises and coordinates, and makes sure that everyone's got a place at the table and a drink in hand. Or perhaps you're the wide-eyed newbie, who's just happy to be there, eager to learn, and grateful for the opportunity to roll dice and tell stories with friends. That's a role too, and an important one. And that's the magic of TTRPGs. You begin to find that your in-game bonds and friendships begin to mirror those of your real-life relationships. And that kind of connection, you just don't get that from solo games or even most video games. 5. Metagaming versus dramatic irony. Player versus character knowledge. Ah yes, metagaming. That phrase that'll often earn you a side eye from across the table. But, like most things in this hobby, the answer is actually quite nuanced. So what is metagaming? It's when the character makes a choice based on the player's knowledge, and not something that the character would necessarily know. And this can definitely break immersion. Like if you read the monster manual ahead of time, and you happen to know that trolls need fire to remain dead. Yet your farmer turned fighter suddenly starts going on about oil and torches, even though he's never actually encountered a troll before. That's metagaming. Yet, if done intentionally, meta-knowledge can actually enhance the story. Let me explain. Take the Alien RPG, for example. Yeah, go check out my first impressions video if you haven't already. My players knew that they were in the alien setting, and that Weyland-Yutani was a bit dodgy. Not to mention the fact that one of the other players was most likely an android, and not everyone was going to make it out alive. They could have just said nope to boarding the creepy derelict ship. But instead, they played into the dramatic irony, and made choices that deepened the tension, even though they knew it was likely not going to end well for them. Another time, I was playing an undercover inquisitor in Warhammer Wrath and Glory. Now, the other players knew that I actually had a secret identity, yet we worked together to build up to this epic reveal. And it eventually culminated in me going Psyker Supernova and blowing up a stadium full of Chaos cultists. It was kinda hard to go back to pretending just to be a Underhive ganger after that. That's dramatic irony done right. But here's the flip side. You want to avoid creating a situation where a player feels that they're forced to make a terrible decision that would drastically impact their own fun and enjoyment just because technically their character didn't know something. That could potentially push them away from the game altogether. It's like the whole spoiler debate. Me, personally, I'm a freak. I love spoilers. I like knowing ahead of time how a story is taking shape, and I get catharsis in watching it unfold. And if I'm playing a video game that I've already played before, and I happen to know that there's a really hard boss fight coming up that took me 4 hours to beat last time, you bet your arse I'm running back to town, resting and stocking up, even if it's technically not what my character would do. But other people want a surprise, even if it means getting wrecked. Both playstyles are valid, but it comes down to knowing which one applies to your table and respecting it. Bonus: embrace your character's flaws. We all play TTRPGs to escape reality, to play the big damn hero and kiss all the hotties. But here's the thing. The characters that stick with us the longest are often the ones that are fundamentally flawed. And not just, oh, but I have a tragic backstory kind of flaws, but real limitations, weaknesses, personality quirks, and vulnerabilities. Playing a flawed or even a broken character can completely change how you view a story. It can offer a fresh perspective, or better yet, teach you something about yourself. There's real catharsis in that. And that's the true magic of tabletop games. So give your character flaws. Ground them. Make them feel like people. You might be surprised where they take you. Final thoughts. So I hope that helped get your creative juices flowing and give you a new way to think about your character or even your own place at the table. Got any tips or takeaways of your own? Drop them in the comments below and I might even do a reaction video. Remember to like, subscribe, and maybe even check out the Patreon where episode 12 of Halfwits has just dropped, featuring our new special guest. Next time we'll be diving into 5 tips for new dungeon masters, including some of the mistakes that I made when putting together my first adventures, so that you don't have to. Till then, thanks again for watching. Yindy, out.